Okay, so it just so happens that it's time for me to install the new service kit on my Lightmonkey P-valve, because guess what? I actually have a leaky left leg, and the Drysuit pressure tests are all positive. So we're going to head on over to the workbench where my Drysuit is on the table. We're going to remove the P-valve out of the Drysuit. We're going to put it on the workbench, install the Lightmonkey service kit. We'll reinstall it on the Drysuit, and then I'll show you actually how to test it to ensure that it's going to work correctly. So let's head over to the bench and we'll take it from there. Okay, keep in mind that we don't actually have to remove the P-valve in order to install the new service kit. Step one is we have to remove the small little retainer screw on the front of the P-valve, and we do that with a 3/32 Allen key wrench. So you can see that the set screw is right there. We don't need to completely remove it, but we do need to sort of bring it most all the way out so that we can actually remove the P-valve knob. And this should just screw completely off. And once it's off, it'll expose the small little flapper. The next is that we have to remove the locking nut. All right, so now that those two things are removed, I should be able to reach my hand on the inside of the Drysuit and pull out the P-valve assembly. Now that we've got the entire P-valve assembly removed, we can actually head to the bench, clean it, and install the new service kit. Now that we've got it all sitting on the bench, it makes it very easy to work on. And you can see that we do have a new service kit from Lightmonkey. And in this service kit, it comes with a new O-ring, a new flapper valve, and also what they call this little white duckbill valve, which is really the important piece for having a balanced P-valve. And so what we've got to do is we've got to remove the old O-ring, the old flapper valve, and what we've got to do is also remove the old duckbill valve and the retaining washer that sits behind that set screw. So first we focus on the O-ring and the flapper valve. So we'll remove the old O-ring and we'll put it, and now we should be able to just sort of pull out this little flapper valve. Okay, so now you can see that that has a little tiny nipple on the end that actually sits inside that hole. Now we can go ahead and remove this set screw to get to the duckbill valve. And this is a 3/16 Allen key. And so now if you take a look inside there, you can really start to see that there is a lot of crud and stuff that's built up over time. So we're going to remove those out, which is right now what we're looking at is the top of this little new white retaining washer. And then underneath that sits the duckbill valve. Okay, so we can see that that little white washer is now out. And if we take a look inside that duckbill valve, wow, that is actually pretty dirty. And so even though I'm pretty good at cleaning after every dive, we can see this thing is in a pretty sad state. So now we'll go and do this another thorough clean under the sink, and we'll get ready to install the new duckbill valve as well as the new retaining washer. Okay, one thing that didn't make it in the video was that I actually soaked the whole P-valve assembly overnight in a bucket of water with one of these stearamine disinfecting tablets. The entire assembly was out of the Drysuit anyway, so it was a good opportunity to get it done. Okay, so now that we've got it clean, we've got it dry, we actually blew it out with the compressor hose. Now we can install the new duckbill valve and the little white retaining washer. That just can simply be pushed down like that, so it sits. Make sure it sits nice and even in the groove. Now we can go ahead and install our little white washer. We want to be pretty gentle so we don't actually break the duckbill valve itself, like that. And now we can go back and reinstall the set screw. And we want to be careful with the set screw that this is hand tight so that it's not actually crushing down on that white washer and then also distorting that duckbill valve. Hand tight. Now that we've got that, we can go ahead and put the new flapper valve in. Okay, like that. We can go ahead and put the O-ring in, just like that. And with that, the service kit installation is complete. And I know we might have some experienced Drysuit P-valve divers in the mix here. So what is your P-valve maintenance routine? Drop some comments below, because this is how we will all learn. All right, now that we've got everything put together, we've got two things we can do to actually test to make sure things are working. Number one, we want to test the duckbill valve. And number two, we want to make sure that the flapper valve is actually sealing. Okay, so let's test the duckbill valve first. And the way we do that is we completely close the P-valve down. We're going to blow into this side. And we want to make sure there is no air coming out of this opening of the duckbill valve. So we'll give it a quick try. And there is no air coming out of the duckbill valve opening. So that's a good sign. So we know that the duckbill valve is seated and working correctly. All right, step two is we want to actually test the flapper valve. So now we can actually open up the P valve as if we are going to use it. We are going to put a thumb over the duckbill valve opening. And now we're going to suck on this end. And there should be no air that is allowed to be pulled through. And again, there is no air. So overall, I feel like the service kit was a success and that we have a good chance of this P valve working correctly once it's back on the suit. But now we got to get it back on the suit. So let's head on over back to the work table. Okay, now that we're back on the Drysuit, we can now refeed the P-valve assembly up through the hole. We took a bit of time to actually clean this hole. Like that. We're going to put the locking nut back in. Now we can go ahead and install the Delron cap. We can now secure the locking screw. Hand tight is fine. And now we need to basically test this valve with the Drysuit being under pressure. Okay, now that we've got our Drysuit under pressure, we're going to use a solution of just soapy water. Looks pretty good to me. At this point, it's time to give it a dive test, because that's the only way you're really going to know. Okay, this is now a perfect segue into my last discussion point, and that is my Drysuit, because of the work that was just done to it. I mean, I removed and reinstalled the P-valve. It is now what I would consider in a compromised or untested state. The fact that I did a successful bubble test on the bench is great, but it's just simply not enough. So now would be a great time to get a few practice dives in at my local dive spot to ensure Drysuit functionality before signing myself up for some sort of important dive event. That could be a dive charter, it might be a dive weekend, it might be a dive course, or it might even be a dive vacation. But one thing I know for sure is that Murphy is always looking for an opportunity to send you home early because you forgot to prepare accordingly. I'm just saying.